If someone had told me at 25 that everything I was chasing, money, status, applause, would one day feel empty, I would have laughed. I had a plan. I had ambition. I had dreams tied to a bigger house, a better car, a more impressive title. For 5 decades, I pursued everything the world said mattered. And yet, here I am, 70 years old, realizing that I climbed the wrong mountain. The view from the top isn't what I expected. It's quiet. It's lonely. And worst of all, it's not even mine. So why am I telling you this? Because if you're younger than me, you still have time. If you're older, it's not too late. And if you feel something missing despite having it all, then maybe, just maybe, you're chasing the wrong things too. Let me take you back to the beginning and show you where I went wrong, and what I finally got right. Tornadoed the early chase, measuring worth by the world's standards. I was 20 when I decided what success meant. It was clear. A 6-figure salary, a big house with a lawn I'd never mow, vacations in places I could barely pronounce, and a spouse who made people envious. Every movie, every magazine, every mentor around me seemed to echo the same mantra: bigger is better. I thought fulfillment came wrapped in luxury packaging. I got my first real job in sales. The money wasn't amazing, but the promise was. Promotions, perks, prestige. I learned to dress sharp, talk fast, and chase numbers like my life depended on them, because in my mind, it did. Every closed deal felt like a step toward the life I wanted. And every time someone admired my hustle, it felt like validation. But what I didn't see was how I was outsourcing my identity. My self-worth became a scoreboard, and I was only winning if I was ahead of others. Briefcase the climb, losing myself in the game. By the time I hit 35, I had what people called a good life. I was managing a team, making more money than my parents ever did, and driving a car that turned heads. People asked me for advice. Family members pointed me out as the successful one. And on the outside, I smiled and accepted the praise. But on the inside, something didn't feel right. I barely saw my kids. I knew more about the markets than I did about their dreams. I hadn't read a book for pleasure in years. My marriage was polite but distant. And the friendships I had were transactional, built on deals, not depth. Still, I kept climbing. Promotions kept coming. So did the bonuses. But it all came at a cost I wasn't willing to admit. I stopped asking, "Is this what I want?" and started asking, "What's next?" It became a treadmill I couldn't get off. And the faster I ran, the more I lost myself. Man-standing the moment of realization, the trophy shelf that didn't matter. I'll never forget the day it hit me. It was my 50th birthday. My team at work threw me a party, balloons, cake, the works. Someone made a speech calling me an inspiration. There was laughter, applause, even a toast. And yet, when I got home that evening, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by trophies and framed certificates. It was quiet. Deafeningly quiet. My wife was visiting her sister. My kids had called but couldn't make it. I looked around at all my achievements and felt nothing. The walls were filled with symbols of success, but the house felt hollow. I had the job title, the car, the investments, but not the joy, not the connection, not the peace. That night, I asked myself a painful question. If I died tomorrow, who would really know me? Not what I did, but who I was. And the silence that followed was unbearable. Compassed the first shift, from doing more to being more. That birthday marked the beginning of the unraveling. Not a collapse, but a slow peeling back of everything I had built my identity on. I started questioning the beliefs that had driven me for decades. Why did I care so much about being important? Why did I avoid silence? Why did love feel like a task and presence like a luxury? I began reading, not business books but philosophy, spirituality, biographies of people who lived, not just succeeded. I went on long walks. I tried journaling. I called old friends I had ghosted in the name of being busy. Some were gracious. Some were gone. Most importantly, I started listening, to others and to myself. And what I heard was this: you've been chasing shadows. It's time to seek the light. Brain reflection. Why we chase the wrong things. Looking back, it's easy to say I was foolish. But the truth is, I was just human. We all crave validation. We all want to matter. The problem is, we often mistake attention for affection and success for meaning. The world constantly tells us what to value: productivity, popularity, possessions. But it rarely asks us who we want to become. So we build lives around performance instead of purpose. We chase things we don't truly need to impress people who don't really care. And in that chase, we slowly lose our essence. We forget joy. We forget wonder. We forget love. The wake-up call, not a breakdown but a breakthrough. When the facade of my so-called successful life began to crumble, I didn't fall apart overnight. There was no dramatic scene, no walking away from my job in a blaze of glory. No. It was quieter than that, more unsettling. It was waking up and realizing I didn't know who I was beneath the roles I played. Father, husband, director, provider, performer. They were all masks, some honorable, some necessary, but none felt like me. I had been so busy being everything for everyone that I had forgotten how to be someone for myself. The first real change wasn't external, it was a shift in mindset. I stopped asking, what do I need to do today to stay ahead? And began asking, what do I need to do today to feel whole? That single shift transformed everything. Man in lotus position, slowing down, the forgotten power of stillness. One of the first practices I adopted was stillness. Not just physically but mentally. For years I had filled every gap in my day with noise, emails, podcasts, calls, news, distractions. Silence felt like a threat because it forced me to face myself. So I started small. 5 minutes of sitting quietly in the morning. No phone. No agenda. Just breath. Just presence. At first it was agonizing. My mind screamed, "You're wasting time. You should be doing something." But slowly that urgency faded. In its place came a surprising feeling, peace. Stillness became my teacher. It showed me how cluttered my inner world had become. It helped me hear the subtle whispers beneath the chaos. You are enough. You are loved. You don't need to prove anything. That one practice, doing nothing, did more to heal me than any vacation or promotion ever had. Reconnecting, healing relationships that mattered most. Once I started reconnecting with myself, I realized how many of my relationships had suffered in the shadow of ambition. I reached out to my wife, not just to say hi, but to ask how she was really doing. We had grown into polite strangers, exchanging logistical updates and surface-level kindness, but we had stopped truly seeing each other. One evening I told her, "I miss us." And we both cried. We started taking walks, cooking together, sitting in silence, not because we had nothing to say but because we felt safe in the stillness. For the first time in years we weren't just living side by side, we were living together. I did the same with my children. I apologized, not with excuses but with honesty. I wasn't there enough. I was always too busy trying to win a race I didn't understand. To my surprise, they didn't respond with resentment. They responded with grace. All they ever wanted was me, not my success, not my lectures, not my money. Just my presence. Books learning anew. Wisdom over information. For decades I read for advantage, business books, strategy, productivity hacks. But once I began slowing down, I started reading for wisdom. Philosophy, spirituality, poetry. Memoirs of people who had lived intentionally, not just successfully. One quote changed my life. It was by Viktor Frankl. Success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue, as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. That hit me like a thunderclap. I had been chasing success directly, like grabbing at fog. But what if success was simply the byproduct of meaning? What if peace wasn't something to earn, but something to remember? I began writing. Not for an audience, just for myself. Journaling, reflecting, asking myself deep questions like, what do I believe in? Who do I want to become? What kind of ancestor do I want to be? And in those pages, I found clarity I had been seeking my entire life. Compass realigning my life, from more to meaningful. I didn't quit my job. I didn't abandon my responsibilities. But I redefined my metrics for success. I started saying no, to meetings that didn't matter, to events that drained me, to people who only called when they needed something. I started saying yes, to slow mornings, to weekend hikes, to handwritten letters, to deep conversations that made me forget to check the time. I made space for joy without justification. Watching the sunset with a cup of tea. Listening to birdsong. Laughing with old friends. Doing nothing and feeling everything. I began prioritizing time over money, depth over breadth, essence over image. The surprising thing? The more I let go of performance, the more peaceful I felt. And ironically, the more authentic and effective I became, at work, at home, and in my own skin. Sunrise over mountains, the rise of quiet fulfillment. There is a kind of joy that doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't come from achievements. It comes from alignment, when your actions, values, and inner truth finally match. That's what I started experiencing. Not every day. Not perfectly. But deeply. I no longer needed applause to feel worthy. I no longer feared failure. I no longer felt the urge to explain or justify my choices. I began living, not just existing. And here's the paradox. Once I stopped chasing what the world called greatness, I stumbled into something greater: authenticity, peace, presence. I didn't build a better life. I peeled away everything that wasn't me until what remained felt true. Speech balloon reflection. The gifts that came after letting go. Letting go is terrifying. But it's also liberating. I had to lose my old self to find my real self. And along the way, I discovered truths I wish I had known sooner. Success isn't about climbing higher, it's about going deeper. You can start over at any age, not by changing your job but by changing your values. Presence is the greatest present you can offer anyone, including yourself. What I once saw as the end of the road turned out to be a beginning. Simple truths that could have changed everything, had I known them earlier. Brain Lesson 1. Success without peace is failure in disguise. It took me 5 decades to learn that success is not the same as fulfillment. I had the job, the money, the recognition. But I also had stress, shallow relationships, and a constant sense of unease. The world applauded me, but I never clapped for myself. Why? Because success without inner peace is just performance. It's an empty trophy. Now, I measure success differently. Can I sleep at night? Do I love the person I'm becoming? Am I kind to those who can do nothing for me? Peace, not applause, became the real prize. Mantelpiece Clock Lesson 2. Time is the real wealth. We're taught to trade time for money. But no one tells us that money can't buy more time. I miss school plays, birthdays, and quiet dinners thinking I was providing. What I didn't realize is, my presence was more valuable than any present. Time is the only currency you can't earn back. Once it's gone forever. Now I guard my time like gold. I spend it intentionally, with people I love, on things that matter, in places that nourish my soul. Speech Balloon Lesson 3. Listen more than you speak. I spent years giving advice, sharing opinions, proving my knowledge. But the people I remember most, the ones who changed me, weren't talkers. They were listeners. When someone truly listens without interrupting or judging, it feels like healing. It tells the other person you matter. You're safe. You're seen. Listening isn't silence. It's service. And it's rare. Now I speak less, but when I do, I mean it. And when I listen with my heart, not just my ears. Lesson 4. Don't wait to say, I love you. I always assumed there would be time to make that call, to forgive, to express how I really felt. But time isn't promised. I lost people I loved before I had the courage to tell them. I missed chances to apologize, to reconcile, to simply say, you matter to me. Now I don't wait. If I feel it, I say it. Life is too short for withheld affection and unsent messages. Love left unspoken can become your greatest regret. Manstanding Lesson 5. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's clarity. For most of my life, I avoided being alone. I filled every space with noise, TV, meetings, scrolling. I thought solitude was a sign of failure or sadness. But in my 50s, I learned that solitude isn't loneliness, it's sacred. It's where you meet your truest self. It's where you hear the quiet truths buried under years of noise. Now I seek solitude like a friend. It's not a void, it's a mirror. Brick Lesson 6. Small habits shape a big life. I used to believe that life changed through big events, promotions, weddings, moves. But real transformation comes from small habits, repeated consistently over time. Journaling 10 minutes a day gave me clarity I never got from therapists. Walking after dinner deepened my connection with my partner. Turning off my phone an hour before bed gave me better sleep and more dreams. It's not the big things. It's the daily things that build or break your life. Handshake Lesson 7. Relationships are everything. I once saw people as stepping stones, or if I'm honest, as obstacles. Networking, not friendship. Efficiency, not empathy. But as I aged, I realized this. When you strip away achievements, titles, and possessions, people are all that remain. I now believe that the quality of your relationships is the single greatest predictor of life satisfaction. Not how many, but how deep, how honest, how mutual. I stopped trying to impress people. I'm trying to connect with them instead. Chart Decreasing Lesson 8. Letting go is a skill you must learn. I held on to grudges, roles, identities, and even goals long after they stopped serving me. I feared letting go meant giving up. But letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing when something has finished its purpose in your life. I let go of the need to be right, to win, to always be in control. And in doing so, I discovered something strange: freedom. Now I ask, is this helping me grow or just helping me stay stuck? Lesson 9. You are not what you do. For years, my entire identity was tied to my profession. If someone asked, who are you? I'd respond with what I did, not who I was. The day I retired, I felt lost. If I wasn't director of operations, who was I? It took time, but I finally understood. You are not your job. You are not your achievements. You are not your mistakes. You are a human being with thoughts, dreams, fears, and love. I am a father, a husband, a curious soul, a man learning still. Dove Lesson 10. The most beautiful moments are the simplest. I used to chase big moments, first-class flights, five-star dinners, bucket list goals. But when I reflect on my life, the moments I treasure most are painfully simple. Laughing until I cried with old friends. Sitting on the porch during a summer rain. My child falling asleep on my chest. Holding my wife's hand in silence. The magic of life is in the mundane. Don't miss it chasing the magnificent. Light bulb reflection. Wisdom comes from looking back, but living forward. All these lessons came at a cost. I learned them through mistakes, regrets, missed chances. But here's the gift. I can now live forward with wisdom. And so can you. You don't have to wait 50 years. You don't have to hit bottom. You don't need a crisis to wake up. You just need to pause and listen. Ask yourself, am I living by design or by default? What truly matters to me? What am I chasing, and why? Because you still have time. And it's never too late to realign your life with what truly matters. The question that changed everything. At 70, you stop asking, what can I achieve next? And start asking, what will I leave behind? One day during a quiet walk, this question dropped into my mind like thunder. What do I want people to say about me when I'm gone? Not at the company farewell speech. Not on a LinkedIn tribute. But at my funeral. What words will echo in that room? What stories will be told? It wasn't about ego, it was about impact. Because whether we realize it or not, we're all building a legacy, choice by choice, day by day. The only question is, are you building it on purpose? Or by accident? Compass redefining legacy. It's not what you leave but who you leave behind. Most people think of legacy in terms of monuments, money, or milestones. But that's not the legacy that lasts. True legacy is emotional, relational, spiritual. It's not about what you leave, it's about who you leave behind. Did I raise children who feel seen, safe, and loved? Did I uplift the people around me? Did I make someone's burden a little lighter, someone's smile a little wider? The truth is, I won't be remembered for my job title, my net worth, or the square footage of my house. I'll be remembered for how I made people feel. For the energy I carried. For the way I showed up when it mattered. Who I became, not what I did. Looking back, the moments I'm most proud of aren't on any resume. It's staying up all night with my son when his heart was broken. It's choosing to forgive someone who never apologized. It's holding my wife's hand through her darkest days, saying, I'm not going anywhere. It's mentoring a young colleague who didn't believe in himself, until I did. Those were the moments I became someone, not someone impressive but someone real. Your legacy isn't a trophy case, it's a mirror. It reflects who you were when no one was watching. Speech balloon words I want to be remembered by. One day someone will stand before a room full of people and try to summarize my life in a few minutes. That thought used to terrify me. Now it guides me. I don't want them to say, he worked hard. He made good money. He was respected in the industry. I want them to say, he made people feel safe. He loved deeply. He lived with kindness even when no one gave him credit. Because when the noise fades and the lights dim, what remains isn't what you had. It's who you were. Globe showing Europe-Africa impact. The ripple effect of small actions. There's a myth that you need to change the world in grand cinematic ways. But most world changing doesn't look like that. It looks like listening to a friend without interrupting. It looks like calling your parents just to say, I love you. It looks like apologizing first. It looks like telling a stranger, you matter. We underestimate the power of small kindnesses. But every act of love is a seed, and you'll never know how far its roots will reach. Your legacy isn't in one big moment. It's in the thousands of invisible moments that built your character. Brick building my legacy now, the intentional life. Legacy isn't built when you're old. It's built when you start living on purpose. Here's what I focus on now. Daily presence. I no longer multitask when I'm with someone. I give them the full gift of my attention. Honest conversations. I say what needs to be said. I don't hide behind silence anymore. Serving without expectation. I try to help people without needing anything back. True generosity leaves no strings attached. Passing down wisdom. I write letters to my children not just about my love for them, but the lessons life carved into me. Living what I preach. Integrity is the bridge between words and actions. I try every day to cross that bridge. This is how I live now, not perfectly but intentionally. Hourglass done. If I had one more year. This is a thought experiment I do often. If I had one more year to live, how would I spend it? I'd laugh more. I'd worry less. I'd spend long afternoons in conversation, not in traffic. I'd eat slowly, love boldly, and forgive freely. I'd stop waiting for the perfect time, and realize this is the perfect time. That question keeps me aligned. Because truthfully, none of us know how long we have. But we all get to choose how we show up today. Counterclockwise arrows button from regret to redemption. I won't lie to you, I have regrets. I hurt people. I ignored chances. I chased things that didn't matter. But regret doesn't have to be the final chapter. It can be the turning point. Your past doesn't have to define your legacy, your next choice does. Every day you wake up is a blank page. Will you write another chapter of distraction and fear? Or will you write one of depth, truth, and love? You get to choose. That's the gift. Duff final thoughts, the legacy I choose. As I enter the final stretch of life, I no longer fear being forgotten. Because I finally understand, the point isn't to be remembered by everyone, it's to be remembered deeply by a few. I want to be remembered by my wife as a man who showed up. By my children as a father who saw them and believed in them. By my friends as someone who made them feel lighter. By myself, as someone who finally got it right. That's the legacy I choose. And you can choose it too, starting today.